Hey everybody! So we're trying to get this maneuvered up. My tripod still doesn't come from Amazon, first Amazon. So we've got zip ties and what do you call this thing?
It's a dolly.
A dolly.
Yeah.
We're all sorts of rigged up here for this. Welcome. We're here. We're with Josh again at the crematory. You can see the retort
Hi,
behind
everybody.
us. And we are going to answer your questions about cremation. So last week we covered a lot of the same questions. Your biggest question was, do you get cremated naked? Why don't you answer that while I'm getting set up over here?
Not usually. Some people do, but most of the time you've got clothes on or a hospital gown or something of that nature. Not like I normally look, but I don't think I've cremated too many naked people. So that's as much as I know about it. For sure.
Nice. Everybody's, yep, and Ida's here. Ida.
Hi, Ida.
Juicy Josh.
Oh my
That's
God.
what she calls you.
Nice.
So we are here to answer your questions about cremation and stuff. I'm coming off of, I just made a 3-hour arrangement with an awesome family. Had so much fun, but I've been up since 3:45 because when you get the phones and you're taking death calls on phones and they call and then you're up for like 30 minutes when you get and then so I don't know what I'm running on, but I'm running on it. So, but does the head actually explode? Does the head explode in the cremation process?
No, the head does not explode in the cremation process. The head catches fire like the rest of the body and burns up, and the brain takes a while to burn. A lot of times, if you look in there towards the end of the cremation, the skull a lot of times will stay intact. I mean, when you look through the viewing window that I have on the door of the retort, you can actually see the skull. I mean, it keeps its form until I touch it with that rake, then it just kind of crumbles apart usually. But a lot of times that skull with its form still intact you'll see the brain burning inside of it. That's one of the last things to burn up a lot of times because it's got so much mass to it. It takes a long time to burn.
So while you're talking, all I'm thinking is last time we picked up the tripod to go look at something, and all I'm thinking is if we go to look at something, I have to pick up this dolly.
It's on wheels. We can just move it. It's fine.
They'll just be looking at the ceiling. So, because I was thinking we could go look at the peephole.
Oh yeah, we won't be able to do that. Hooked to this dolly.
No, we can.
We can unhook the phone.
We'll figure something out here. So, how long does a cremation take, and how soon can the family get the remains?
Yeah, it usually takes an hour and a half to 4 hours. Like I said, the first video, just depending on body mass, the weight of the person, that whole thing. And most of the time, they can pick the cremains up the same day or the next day, just depending on what part of the day I start the cremation process.
Well, and it depends on if you go to a crematory and then the cremated remains have to come back to the funeral home. The director has to call the family has to then come in. Yep. So it may be a bit of a process. They may be cremated, but it doesn't mean that they're in the hands of the director or placed into the urn that they need to be returned to the family in right away.
Well, to add to that, I had a witness this morning, which means the husband of the lady I was cremating wanted to come in and witness it and see the onset and everything. And that was at 9 o'clock. And I know he just came downtown and picked up the cremains an hour ago. So, I mean, he watched his wife get put in the retort this morning, and he's already picked her cremains up and took them home. Okay. So, I mean, it can happen like that. It's a time frame thing, and depends on, how long the cremation is, when I get the body, etc.
Picture is very skippy. Well, our internet might be shoddy here too. It is storming like mad. Like, do you see my hair? This is called storming like mad rain, running in and out of buildings all day long. That's what this is. Can you hear Josh okay? You're kind of like low and gravelly a little bit, so you might need to be louder.
I'll try to be louder.
Did Kari get some ink? I have 4 tattoos, so I have gotten some ink. Mm-hmm. Nothing new lately. Do you think that cremation would become the only option in the future?
I don't think it's going to be the only option, but I think it's going to be the primary option. Just a lot of it to me is cost nowadays. People look at the cost of things and it's the cheapest option. And another thing that I think is a big factor after being in the funeral business and being a vault guy and doing graveside setups for years, I just don't think families are as close as they used to be a lot of times.
True.
Just society as a whole has changed. And so it's not as personal of a thing. I mean, I think that's a big factor too. So. And
That's a good thought.
Well, and another big factor that I noticed years ago, you know, it was frowned upon and not accepted in the Catholic Church to be cremated. And years ago, they changed that and said that it was okay. And after that, that's when I saw the cremation rate spike a lot. So I think that has a little bit to do with it too. And on that side of things, just
on the religious constraints.
Yep.
Are you allowed to be there to watch the cremation of your loved one? And by watch, what does that mean? And I'm gonna move this camera closer while he's talking.
Yeah, that's fine. Watching it just really means witnessing the onset. Like behind us right here, you can see this loading tray and the retorts like over here. So they would just come in basically. Where we're sitting really is the viewing room. And they could either be in there with me while I'm doing it. Oops, I hit the dolly. Or they could be standing here at this window behind us and watching. But it's basically just watching your loved one get put into tort, and then they're allowed to stay here as long as they want. I mean, if they want to walk up to that peephole and look in there, they can. You know, I always caution people about it because sometimes if you look through there at the wrong time, you can't unsee things like that, you know? So. And it's not for everybody. And a lot of people may not want to see their wife or their grandma or their sister, you know, in that state. So, but yeah, they're allowed to stay here as long as they want. So.
Can you prepay for a cremation like you can a burial?
Yes, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you're pre-funding or pre-arranging a service. So it's whatever disposition you choose, whether it's cremation or burial. And cremation doesn't necessarily mean direct cremation. You could have a full service, a full viewing, and it ends with cremation. Josh has had a lot of casketed individuals recently that have had full services, and rather than go to the cemetery, they come over to him at the crematory, because we've talked about recently how he's just had more caskets. I mean,
I've burnt more caskets in the last 2 weeks than I've burned in the last year.
Yeah.
And it just seems in this business, it just little things like that just seem to run in weird streaks like that. Now, you know, I could not burn another casket again for months. I mean, who knows?
Once a typical cremation is complete, what is the largest fragment that is normally left?
You're not going to get anything too big. I mean, you're going to get some very little tiny, like teeny bone fragments sometimes in the bag that you get back.
But when you sweep out the machine, how big of pieces?
Before I put it in the processor itself, you're gonna get. I mean,
you gotta hold up.
Yeah, sorry. You're gonna get bigger chunks. I mean, you're gonna get pieces of tops of femurs or pieces of a hip or a piece of a skull. I mean, you're gonna get bigger pieces.
That you can define what they are by looking at them.
Well, and after you've done this enough and you've done enough cremations, you can basically look at those fragments and know what part of the body they came from. I mean, it's like anything else. I mean, you just get an eye for it.
Oh my gosh, Lisa, you just left a barbecue restaurant. I love, Lisa's watched me for, I think the whole 5 years I've been doing this, I think, right, Lisa? You and your family, you and I have been like this for a long time. How can we know for sure that is our loved one that is going in and not make a mistake someone else's body? Like what is through the process to allow you to be certain so that they can be certain?
Well, through every step of the way, from the funeral home downtown, when they actually box the body, there's certain steps they have to take to make sure that's who they're putting in that box. Then when I get them out here, I assign them a little medallion with a number on it that is specifically them, and that's what gets wrote down on their paperwork. That gets stuck on top of that box until the time of cremation. There's a few fail-safes like that to make sure that who it says on that paperwork, that's who it actually is. So.
Do you burn metal caskets?
No, we do not burn metal caskets. Metal caskets will not burn.
Is there a smell during the cremation process?
Not in this unit, no. It's the filtration process and the stacks and stuff and the way the air moves through this. No, there's not. The only thing that I will tell you is when I first put it in there, usually the cardboard box or the casket will catch fire before the door can close, and there is the remnants of that smell, like burnt cardboard, burnt wood, but that's about it. No,
No barbecue smell.
no burning flesh, no anything like that. Not with this unit, no.
It's not like a bonfire or the heat that you have in an oven or a grill. Like this is intense heat.
Yes.
Up to, it turns off at 2,000 degrees, correct?
It will shut itself off. I think this one's set to as a fail safe so it doesn't burn itself up. It's set to shut off at like 21 or 2200 degrees, but it'll shoot you a warning if you get up to 2000 and let you know you're getting too hot. But like today, I did 2 today and
Too hot.
it got up to, it was running right around at the hottest point 1800 degrees.
Okay.
So
Shelly's asking, did the bone fragments stay in place in the retort, or does the process move the body around at all?
for the most part, they stay, in form with where they were laying. But once it burns down and the flame turns on, which forces a lot of air through there, it gets blown around through there a little bit.
Okay.
So
Got some questions. You guys did email me a couple questions for the crematory dude, which I'm guessing is Josh. My wife wants to be cremated and her cremated remains spread on the Mount of Olives east of the old city of Jerusalem. What would be the steps, requirements, paperwork needed to transition from the US to overseas? Since I would be escorting the cremated remains, would it be recommended to have the cremated remains in a clear container as a carry-on to bypass security? Flying with cremated remains, what documents would I need to identify the package? Does any company make a non-breakable clear container for cremated remains?
okay, that's a whole ball of questions.
It's a lot.
Well, I can tell you that I know there are ways that you can do that, but as far as the authorization and the permitting and stuff, I don't know who you'd have to contact to do that.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will tell you is there was, last year I cremated a lady from Japan. Her son was a professor over here, and he wanted to take her back. And I know he was taking her in his carry-on and taking her right on the plane in his carry-on stuff. And so we packaged her to where he could do that. And you want me to show these?
Yeah, you can show those.
Okay, this is normally what you get your loved one back in from us. It's plastic. It seals up. It's just a plastic box. The bag is inside here. It's wrapped up with a zip tie on it with that medallion I was talking about with a specific number on it. And on the outside would be a sticker with that person's name, the date they were cremated, the number of that medallion, the logo for the funeral home, all that good stuff. And this right here is pretty durable and you're not gonna hurt it. And with that bag being in there packaged up, the cremains, there's no real chance of them falling out. So this would be probably your best bet as far as transporting it, taking it somewhere. And that's for an adult or a normal sized person. Now, if it's a baby or a kid or somebody smaller, we have the smaller white ones too. And it's the same thing, but it's just a smaller unit, smaller bag, because obviously there's less cremains.
Or a portion of cremated remains, because we divide. I think in the last video we talked about how sometimes when requests are submitted with the deceased, it may say 1 black box, 3 white boxes. And that's what it means. 1 large one, and then a couple smaller bags that are in white boxes so that they're divided. So
when people request that though, the labels, I have to put a label on this, on any box that's holding cremains. It has to have that person's name, that medallion number. So if they wanted some of them in this black box and then 2 smaller white boxes, I'd have to make 3 sets of paperwork, labels, everything for it.
Right, you don't want a box that has no label on it, because then, and I have had that before where I've gone into a funeral home, I've helped with their unclaimed human remains that are cremated, which, check out my last post about it. It happens everywhere. There's a stock of cremated remains that have not been picked up.
Yep.
And we encountered some that had no labels, no tags, just a bag of cremated remains, and there is no way to tell who that is because DNA is
Right.
completely kaput in the cremation process.
Yep.
So then you just have this box of cremated remains, and
So,
who is it?
right, and so through just the liability side of things, I have to be very careful on when I'm packaging cremains on taking all those steps to make sure everything's taken care of correctly.
So a little bit back to this question of going to Jerusalem, your best bet if you're transporting cremated remains is to check with that you're traveling to, because it's not so much leaving a country that you need to worry about, it's entering a country because you have to go
Right.
through their customs. So when you go into their customs, they may, you're gonna want a death certificate. You're gonna want a certification of cremated remains, which is what comes with like that black box that certifies who is in there, what is in there, what's
Yeah.
going on. They are going to make you open that regardless of if it's clear or not. If it's a clear box, it doesn't matter. They can't tell that it's cremated remains. They're going to make you open it, they're going to test it, and they're going to verify that it's not combustible, that it's not explosive, drugs, whatever it may be.
Yep.
So you need lots of labeling, paperwork. You may also check that you don't need a certificate from the health department to state that the cremated remains are of any kind of exposure risk.
Yeah.
So the best thing is to call the consulate on your receiving end, the country you're going to, and verify what it is that they're going to need when you come through customs. Every country is going to be different, whether it's a body or whether it's cremated remains. But yeah, you can put them in your carry-on. You're going to spend some extra time in security though. And you're going to have to prove that that's a dead person in a box that you're carrying on that plane.
Right.
So another question we received, and I'm going to try and come back to all these questions you guys are posting. You guys are like wanting to know everything. So James asked, I don't know if you'll be able to answer my question or not. How does the process of cremation in India and the Ganges River differ from a cremation in the United States? Are they able to achieve a comparable result without a retort? And how much does this cost? We were talking beforehand, and
Yeah.
Josh was kind of like, I don't know.
I have no knowledge.
I had
mean,
no knowledge, honestly. Like, I know a little about the process, but I'd never thought about the costs and kind of the process when somebody dies.
Right.
So I actually did a bunch of feelers ahead to find some information. So comparable in pricing, if somebody dies, there's no funeral directors. There's people who do funeral pyres there, and they have their charge. And there may be a company who goes to retrieve the person from the home, or you may just load up your loved one and bring them to the funeral pyre, and then you have a charge at the funeral pyre. Prices varied a bit, but in American dollars, it was about like a $45 to $150 for completing that process, which there is comparable to thousands of dollars. I mean, the what do I want to say? Like the economy is that much different with all of it. So it was quite interesting because I never
No, and that's something
thought
that I didn't
about.
know, that somebody who's not like certified or
Licensed or-
licensed can just handle bodies like that.
Like, hey, bring me
So,
your loved one and I'm gonna burn them up. And there you go. Hi Josh. How do you feel about your fan club? Do you plan to offer merch?
this is all new to me, so I'm still kind of getting used to it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I'll talk to Kari and maybe we'll figure something out. Nothing planned though, I can tell you that.
Hey Felicity. Do most people scatter the cremains in a special place, or do a lot of people put them in a columbarium and bury the ashes?
It just depends. I mean, it depends on your preference. I mean, I hear of people doing all those things, you know. It's just a preference thing.
Is there a maximum body size that cannot go into the retort? Someone that could not be cremated due to their size?
I mean, it just depends on if they're too big to fit in the opening on that door, basically. I mean, if they're small enough to fit through there, it really doesn't matter what their weight is. I mean,
But they do have max weights for the machine.
for the machine and how much you're going to stress that out. Yep. And to be quite honest with you, that's something I probably should know, but I don't know what the max weight on this particular machine is. I mean, because you're not going to see anybody that big. I mean, I just can't
Not
foresee that
often.
happening.
Like,
I mean, the biggest person that I've cremated in this machine was 670, 680. And that's a very big person.
and a lot of machines are rated for 900 or 1200. 1200 is the highest machine I've heard
And
of.
I was just gonna say, I'm betting you money that this one's probably around 1,000 pounds or a little more.
But it's the size of the individual
Right.
that's more so than the weight is actually fitting them in. And no, we
Yeah.
don't cut them apart to fit them in. That's a highly illegal. You
No.
can't destruct a human body that way
No,
to get all their pieces and parts in the machine.
nor do I want to do something like that.
Super naughty.
Nope.
That's Naughty. If you haven't watched my That's Naughty videos, can you go over obese cremations, grease fires, danger?
Sure. I mean, with this machine, the only thing that the obese people really do to this, and as far as the grease fire aspect of it, yeah, it is a big grease fire. It can create black smoke coming out of the exhaust on the top of the building, which you don't really want. It also burns a lot hotter and a lot longer. So if it's a very big person and they are very obese, you run the risk of overheating the machine. You got to be careful with it. Once it's in there, there's not a lot you can do either. I mean, you can adjust the airflow to the top and bottom chamber. There's a few things you can kind of tweak on it to help that. But I mean, once you put that body in there, no matter what you know, how big it is, you're at the mercy of the cremation at that point. I mean, you just got to know your machine and know what you need to do in case it starts to overheat or in case something like that happens. But other than that, I mean, it's not much of a deal, you know.
So I was watching My Strange Addiction, and this lady was addicted to eating her husband's cremated remains. Have you heard that one?
No. Did you just see my jaw drop? Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
it was and so she
Whoa.
eats like bits. I can't even imagine. It's so dry
Oh,
and
that
granular.
would that
like,
would be worse. Just the consistency of cremated that would be worse than eating chalk and sand mixed together. I mean, that's the only thing I could compare to it. Would be like taking crushed up chalk and sand and I mean that.
and like what's it called? Gravel
Yeah.
almost.
That's no.
Like so dry.
No. Hey, to each their own. But wow. Okay.
In one of Caitlin's books, there is a chapter about cremating babies. Her wording confuses me a little. It says she had to perfect the toss.
What that means is when I burn babies, I don't stick them directly into that unit. I have a steel pan that is, you know, it's yay long. It's big enough to fit a box with a baby in it in there. And then when you push it into the unit, you have to do it manually, and you don't want it to sit right where the flame comes out and hits it because it will blow those ashes everywhere, and there's not much left of a baby anyway after they're cremated,
Right.
and so you would have nothing left to give the family back. So what you do is you offset it so it's not right directly in the flame, it's off to the side of the flame. The flame hitting next to that steel pan heats that up enough to where eventually the cremation process takes place. Then I usually have to let it cool overnight or over a couple day period, and then I can drag it back out, and all those cremains are caught in that steel container, or the majority of them. You're gonna get some of them that fly out, but that's the only real way that I know of to keep those together.
What's the price point of cremation compared to the hydro water technique?
Again, I think somebody asked us that question last time, and I don't know. I don't know much about the hydro water technique. I know what it is, but price-wise, I have no idea what they charge or what the costs
It's the
are.
same.
Is that okay?
Everyone that I visited, it's the same as regular cremation. It's really, your biggest is transport to one of those facilities. So
Right.
like if someone dies right here, they can come here to have a flame cremation, or we can transport them like an hour and a half to a water cremation, which a lot of people hate that term, but an alkaline hydrolysis facility, and he charges the exact same as a flame cremation. So it's really just that mileage fee that you're paying.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that.
When I picked up my dad's cremated remains, they gave me an empty urn, and I had to go back for them to put the cremated remains in the urn. But how do I know for sure they are the correct? We already talked about that, Rose. There's a lot of identification and a lot of things, and I know that's a huge concern for everybody. Is this my loved one? And I don't remember really getting that question until the tri-state crematory thing happened.
Down in Georgia?
Happened back in Georgia. Check out my first video on That's Naughty, where I talk about that, and that really, I think, put everyone on the defense when it came to that.
And that is such an anomaly, because after being in this business for almost 30 years and being a vault man and contracting through, heck, I don't know how many funeral homes I've worked for, but I can tell you 99.9% of the funeral homes I worked for are honest, reputable people. They're doing what they tell you they're doing, and they don't want to give themselves a black eye by doing something shady.
Lisa says, did Josh really say cremains?
Yes.
Not cremated remains?
Yes, I did.
Hang out with Kari, because she's going to tell it to you.
Hey, I grew up hanging around a bunch of old school guys in this business, and that's what they were always called.
So he's used to more talking to funeral directors.
Right.
You guys know I'm a stickler for correct terms. We don't use slang, and when I read your questions and you put ashes, I read them as cremated remains, because ashes, I hate that term.
Right, they're not ashes.
There you go. Do people scatter the cremated remains in a special place? We already did that one. Have you sent? Did you have to go to mortuary school to get a license to work in the crematorium? So talk about that a little bit again.
No, I did not. All I had to do was get online, and there's an organization called CANA. It's C-A-N-A. It's a Crematory Association in North America, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
But you can get on there, you study for a couple days, take an online test, and if you pass the test, you are a certified crematory operator, which a lot of people can do that. The thing with like this machine compared to other machines, it's just having somebody who knows the machine, knows the operation of the machine, to kind of teach you the ins and outs of that. And even after that, then it's more of a hands-on thing. And because each of these machines is different, and you learn the quirks with your machine, and you learn what works, what doesn't work, how different bodies are going to react once they're inside that machine, and kind of what to expect. And again, like I said before, you get an eye for looking through that peephole, what you're looking at. And I can see right away, oh, there's a metal leg rod in that person, once it starts to burn down, or there's a fake knee, or you can see those things. You just get an eye for it. It's just through experience and doing it.
Thank you guys for the Mother's Day wishes. Yeah, me and the girls, I don't know what we're going to do. My youngest wants to make me cupcakes on Sunday, so she's in charge of cupcakes. The oldest one to make me dinner. She's gonna make me dinner. Doesn't know what yet, hasn't figured it out. So I'm gonna spend lunch with my mom, who you guys know. So happy Mother's Day to Winnie from you guys. So shout out to her. You guys have all seen her. It was last Mother's Day, just 1 year ago, when I put her in that body bag removal device
and took her
down the stairs.
Yeah.
Someone just told me the other day, they go, or one of the part-time guys at the funeral home said, I just watched your video where your mom got in the removal pouch and you drug her down the stairs. That was how we celebrated
Happy
Mother's Day last year. So yeah, we have no wild, wacky plans for this year's Mother's Day, but it's kind of crazy that was a year ago already. The last year has just flown. T-shirts that say Josh the crematory boss. Are you a boss?
I'm not a boss. I work for other people. I'm just the crematory guy.
Hello in Dublin City, Ireland. I want to come to Ireland.
Ooh, nice.
I want to go to Ireland. So if the cremated remains come in a plastic box, how do you put them in an urn?
Well, like I showed you with this box, the top pops open. The bag that's in there's usually a zip tie around it. You just cut that and the bag opens up, and then you can transfer remains any way you want.
And check with your funeral director. They may help you transfer into an urn.
Most of them will.
Some funeral homes will not help you transfer into an urn you did not purchase with them. It's not that they're being jerks about it. It's that, what if you bring them like the grandma's special cookie jar from like the 1800s, and if they break it, it's irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So they only want to deal with things that they have sold because they know the I don't know, the construct of them sort of thing. And so they're comfortable with it. They don't want to break your stuff and be
Right.
liable for that, because you might buy something online, bring it to them, and it freaking falls apart. And then you sue them, or you expect them to pay for a new one when it had nothing to do with them.
Right.
So that's why some people get sticklers for it, because the people who want to sue everybody, honestly,
There's a lot of them out there, especially in this business.
I mean, when you have part of the cremation authorization at a lot of places now has to state that you understand this process is irreversible. We can't put your loved one back together. And people wonder, why is that in there? It's because
somebody has tried to sue somebody
over
Yep.
the time.
That's,
So a lot of rules and regulations that come about are because people did naughty things. It's the naughty people.
Yep.
Does the body ever explode?
No, body does not explode. The only thing that does explode in there sometimes is if somebody forgets a pacemaker inside a body. I had one of those explode the other day, and it was
You did?
an old school pacemaker. Like, somebody forgot one. It was one of the bigger ones. And I was sitting at my desk 20 yards away from the retort, and I about jumped out of my chair because it sounded like a hand grenade going off. And that's terrible for the inside of that unit and the refractory brick that it's built with and stuff. It didn't do anything, but after time, if that keeps happening, yeah, it will damage the inside of the unit. It's not good for it.
What if somebody's in there and it does overheat? Like, how do you restart it? Does it have to cool?
Yep,
Like, what's
you
that process?
You just have to let it cool down to a temperature where you can get it restarted, and then you just fire it back up and complete the process. Or I think the last video that we did, we talked about the power going out.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be about 3/4 of the way through the cremation. And when the power did go out, there was enough heat in there, and the body was already broke down enough where it just kind of finished the process out itself. It just took a while. So.
What are our zodiac signs? Sarah asks. What's your zodiac sign?
I'm a Scorpio.
And I'm a Cancer. I'm on the verge of Gemini. I'm 2 days from a Gemini. So I'm like, I do have some Gemini characteristics, but mostly Cancer almost to a T. So tell us what that means, Sarah.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, what does it mean about us? Do you have any feelings when you cremate a very young person asking from the Netherlands? So when you handle a baby or a child, what are you...
Yeah,
Any thoughts? Or
being a dad, yeah, those get me. I mean, the people that are older, you know, they've lived their life and accidents happen, stuff like that. But yeah, that's the only thing that really bothers me is doing babies or doing children. That's tough, but it's, you know, it's part of it. I mean, you have to take it for what it is and, you know, do your job.
Are you allowed to spend time with your loved one before they go into the cremation?
Oh yeah. Yeah, if like this morning, the witness process, they can stand there and take as long as they want. I don't rush anybody in and out. I mean, once they're here, it's their time to do what they need. I mean, grieving's different for everybody. Everybody handles it different. Everybody has their own little process, so.
Well, and it depends on the funeral home too. If at the crematory, like Josh doesn't open the box. You don't see the person if it's just Josh and the family.
Correct.
A funeral director has to be here to do a viewing again here. However, you can set up an identification view or a private viewing prior to cremation at the funeral home. So it depends on how your funeral home and crematory are set up, if you do that viewing before or not. Some funeral homes require an identification view. I just met with a family the other day and they were like, oh, you don't require us to view her prior to cremation, because they had encountered that at a different funeral home. So it all depends on the funeral home, some of the logistics of it. Does Josh do other funeral home stuff?
Other funeral home stuff as far as meet with families and stuff. The only part of that I do is I handle all the pet cremations. We have another unit besides this one where we strictly burn just pets. And yes, I deal directly with all the pet families that bring their pets in, and I do all the paperwork and all the arrangements and all that kind of stuff. But
Paw print them.
I do ink
Do you
paw
do
prints. I
nose prints?
usually don't do nose prints, but I do ink paw prints. We do clay paw prints, stuff like that. But as far as the human side of things, no, that is all on Kari, the other funeral directors. I just handle the bodies and all the paperwork out here at the crematory. Excuse me, frog in my throat.
Some water.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
I have a pacemaker. Will they remove it before cremation? Yes, they will. Staircase vid. Tyler, I don't know what staircase vid you're talking about. Like the staircase, that crime victim thing about staircase. There was a mini series coming about that. I'm kind of excited to see it. Have you ever found a surgical instrument at the end of cremation? Like, whoops.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Did you find anything?
And yes, I have. I have found forceps, the clamps, like the hemostat type of things. Yeah. Yep, I found some of those that were in somebody.
What?
Yep.
Good question, Joe. Can I request cremated remains size instead of dust? Can you keep them large or not?
I mean, you could, I guess, but you'd have to have a pretty big container to keep them in.
Well, and there are some laws. So like our law here is you have to pulverize them down to the point that they don't look like full bone. Like if there's a femur, you can't give back a full femur. They can't look like human.
They can't look like actual human bones. Yeah, and that would be the problem, because when I rake that unit out, yeah, there's enough pieces there that there's still chunks of bone. I mean.
Oh, okay, Desiree, I will do that. Someone wants a Burn Baby Burn t-shirt for Josh's.
Oh, you guys are making me laugh.
Tips for removal. I'll have to find that, Desiree, and put it on here. Oh, there it is. Okay. I will put the video with my mom, you guys, so you can watch it and click on it here. Copy link address. It takes more than just a quick to do. There you go. There's the video. All right, we got just a couple more questions. We're approaching 40 minutes, so I like to keep these a little shorter. Thank you, Jason. Do you have a question you want to ask? He gave you some money.
Oh, cool.
Miss USA received her crematory operator certificate and is in North Carolina working for a corporate funeral establishment. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, lots of wait time and lots of steps to take. What happens to all the hardware? You want to talk about that?
Yep, all the hardware goes into a recycle container, and we work through a company that once it's full, I weigh it and call them. Matter of fact, they just picked up a full container yesterday and brought me a new empty one today. But it gets recycled, and then they pay the funeral home, a portion, or I think they pay them by the pound, and I don't know what that is, but it's fairly pricey. I mean, they get quite a bit of money for it, but the funeral home that I work for turns around and donates all that to charity. So they have a couple different charities around our city, and the money goes straight to charity from that.
So Bill says people who are cancers are very caring and nurturing. Perfect. Scorpio is scientific and about transformation or disposal. Perfect.
Yeah.
That is kind of spot on.
That is pretty spot on.
Once you get the deceased, do you do any prep work with the body, or does he even see the deceased?
I see the deceased a lot of times, but no, I don't have to do anything with them.
But not out here, do you?
I mean, there's been times where jewelry's been forgotten. There's been an article inside, that was on them or on their person that was forgotten. I don't do it personally. I always, like I said, just because of liability's sake, I always require a licensed funeral director to come out here and do stuff like that. I mean, that's just kind of another fail safe to keep anything bad from happening, to keep from, just the liability of everything.
Do you feel at ease about death being in the business? How do you feel about dying?
Yeah, I'm not afraid of dying. I don't want to die. I mean, I got a lot of life to live, but no, death does not scare me or bother me. But I'm way more of a spiritual than a religious person. And I mean, I believe that something happens to our soul and it goes somewhere. I mean, there's something after this, and I don't think it's anything to be scared of, as long as you've been a decent person. Nobody's perfect, but as long as you haven't been a terrible person, we're good.
And I'm scared to bejesus of death.
No.
I think it's more, I'm not scared of what's happening to me. It's more of missing things with my kids, or them being here and not knowing what's going on with them. Like, I'm at that phase of life where I don't want them to have to do life without their mama. And so that part of it scares me, I think.
I can see that.
Can you get cremated in a cardboard box?
That's what I cremate most people in, is in a cardboard box. It's a heavy duty cardboard box, and it's rated for up to about 300 pounds. And they're pretty rigid. There's a liner inside them. There's the body's usually wrapped in some kind of body bag inside that. And so yeah, that's the 90% of the cremations I do are in the cardboard boxes.
I have told Kari before that my dad wants to be cremated. He has joked that he wants his remains to be put in a baseball container. Is this possible? Drew, do you mean like a...
Yeah, like the display autograph baseball type of deal, I think is what she's talking about. That sits on like...
Yeah, Drew, explain more.
Yeah.
They say now Josh is not scared of the camera.
I'm getting used to it.
He's more at ease.
Getting used to it.
Yeah.
The first time was weird. I knew a little bit more what to expect this time, so... Yeah.
We're easing him into it, guys.
And also, you guys have been very nice, so that's made it easier too. So, thank you.
You guys haven't had bad comments. It's been a little Josh fan club starting up. I think Ida might be the president. I'm not going to lie. Josh is back with Kari. Yes, I dragged him here. Not kicking and screaming. So Drew says like inside the actual baseball. So it would only hold.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, a baseball's not going to hold much cremains.
Like the interior of a baseball, if you unwrap a baseball, that middle rubber center is only about this big. So if you figure, if you filled that portion, it's what, like...
Plus, how would
not
you...
even an
you,
eighth of a cup?
Well, you couldn't do that without cutting the leather wrapping of the baseball. I don't know how you do that.
You would maybe have to fill a little cylinder the size of that rubber thing, send it to a baseball company, have them wrap it, and put the not innards, but outwards. Is that even a word? Outwards around it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Thank you, Carol. This is Sheen, like $6. I love Sheen. Oh, Nell. Yeah, you got to check out the first installment of Live with Josh. So when you go back, you'll see he's a little more nervous the first time. This time is like a whole better version. Just curious, if someone dies of COVID or AIDS, are the remains infected like if inhaled during cremation?
No, like when I get them, it's usually marked on the box if they were COVID or if they had some kind of infectious disease. So I'm just super careful about handling the box itself. Once it goes into the retort, no, there's really nothing to worry about because those flames kill everything.
Thank you guys for clicking like, and too, sharing is great. That's one of my biggest, like, if you are getting something from this video, somebody else wants to hear this information too. So share it in an email, share it on your social media. Hey, check out this girl's YouTube. And I don't do it so that, I can get views or I can get clicks. I really am about education and a video helping one person. Even if it helps one person, it's worth it. So the purpose of the content is just that. So one at a time. Well, we're gonna wind down. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm sure I'm going to coerce him into coming back again. Maybe take some whiskey to do it, but we'll talk Josh into coming back again, chatting. How about we do a Vault Guy installment of live Q&A for what, 27, 28, what is?
For 27 years, I was a vault guy.
So he knows the ins and outs of vaults and disinterments and
graveside setups.
everything.
Yeah.
So we can dive into that side of stuff with him, which he has been doing way longer than the crematory side.
Oh, yeah.
And can share a lot of experiences with you about funky, stinky disinterments.
Yep.
Caskets falling into graves. Have they ever fallen during?
Not on me, but yes, I've been there when they've happened to other guys. I've had to go help rescue people from stuff like that. Yeah, it's.
Say hi to Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Thank you, Josh and Kari. You're both fun to watch. Do something fun this weekend. I will. I'll be hanging with the girls Sunday.
I will too.
What, you will hang out with my girls?
You're going to see I'll be doing something fun.
With your mom. I think your mom.
Yep.
Check you out soon. I think Monday evening, I'm going to do a live video, a quick one maybe. Yeah, why not? So got a bunch of fun videos coming. I've recorded a couple in the last couple days that are just fun, good story videos, kind of 5 to 7 minute long videos. Want to throw a couple of those at you too. Going to have our first video with Brenda coming up soon for the funeral countdown. Trying to get 2 funeral director schedules to line up. A little more challenging than you would think. Called in to embalm someone, so we can't record tonight. It's amazing that Ryan, Brian, and John to record when we have, because director schedules to line up, because Brenda and I are challenged by schedules. But thanks, Josh.
Thanks, everybody.
Throw him some love, and we will see you guys soon.
See ya.
Bye. Maybe. I can't seem to log
It
on.
doesn't want to